the Redneck Garage. Well, I'm getting close to the end of the road with Bluey. The TJ, I'm almost finished with it. I'm about to put the top back on it. Looks beautiful. It's ready to sell pretty much. And I'll have some more videos of that. But I did get another project, and I don't want to talk about it too much because I'm a little bit, frustrated would be the word, I imagine. And I'll show you what I've got in the back of my Maverick. Super awesome. This is a Ford factory part. They are available. I picked it up at the dealership. This is what it looked like there. This, my friends, is a Ford factory fresh Maverick rear quarter panel. Yes, indeedy. Now, as you can see from this truck, there's really nothing wrong with it. It happens to be another Maverick that I own that may or may not have, backed into a parked car. And that's all I'm gonna say right now. So anyway, this is the quarter panel. I believe it's just got one spot weld from the factory on it. I'm gonna find out. For the most part, it bolts up, so that's really cool. This part is about $750 straight from the dealership, and I got a little bit of a discount because I'm a commercial account with them and everything. I'm sure it comes in this. I'm sure I'm gonna have to probably spray some sealer on it, I believe, but I'm gonna double check on that, what the best product to use on it since it's brand new. But it sure looks nice, and it's not dented up like the one that's on the truck. Basically, the back end of it in here, this part got all crushed in when it backed into a parked car. I got these on Amazon. They're 3M superfine pads, and they're I think they said it was like 800 grit, 700, 600, 800 grit, and they're very fine. But man, these things work great for prepping like plastic parts or this other piece that I'll show you here in a minute. But these things are absolutely phenomenal. I love using it versus like sandpaper. All right, so excited, so excited. I've got the inside scuffed. I'm gonna wipe it down, and I'm just gonna shoot some white paint on it. And it's not a big deal either way, because once it's on the truck we'll be painting again, but I need to go ahead and just cut the inside in so I can install it. I'm using some Autobahn Oxford White base coat. Got it mixed up, ready to shoot. Get that back done. First thing I did was scuff it up. Then I painted it white on the back side with some base coat. And then I threw some clear on it. Now, it's rough as a cob, I can tell you that. It is not perfect. It's on the inside of the fender. Had a lot of moisture. You can see that there was a little moisture right there. This is basically just to keep it from rusting, right? And if there is where you can see through it, that you can see that it's the same color. So I'm happy with this. It looks great. As far as like the removal of the quarter panel, once you get all the trim off, there's bolts in the top, the sides, the bottom. I go pick up the truck tomorrow, so we'll pick up there. This thing's ready to put on, and I have to start the disassembly process. Now, originally I thought, you know what, let's just paint this off the truck, and when the truck comes in, we'll put it back on. And then when I actually had it out, this is pretty floppy. This is not, so I thought, you know what, it's going to be better to go ahead and mount everything and get it mounted on the truck and then paint it so it's not moving around, and there's no chance that you're going to damage the paint, because that always happens. If you think you're going to be able to just take it apart and put it on the truck and not scratch it or hit something with it, or that's just the way painting is, you know, body work, something goes wrong every time. So anyway, she's ready to go on. Backside's painted. I'm going to have to play with the gas door to figure out what we got to do with it. everything else should bolt up to it, and it may be easier. I'm going to say that it may be easier than a lot of quarter panel replacements that I've done. A lot of those you have to actually cut out and MIG weld back in and everything else. If all I got to do is take out a couple spot welds, glue it back in, paint it, I will be extremely happy. Well, I'm out here with Mavy number 2, my Maverick XL 2023 model with 13,000 miles on it. This is wreck number 2. I did not think that I would be having it in the shop repairing another wreck as soon as I have been. Now, I'm not going to even get into what happened, but I can say that there's been some career counseling done, and hopefully there will be better driving in the future. The purpose of this video, though, is to show you how to replace your rear quarter panel on the Maverick. I've got a couple different procedures that the factory did not call for because I'm going to make it easier on myself. 3M panel adhesive is part of that process. So let's take a look at where it was wrecked, what is going on. It could be a lot worse. It could be totaled. But let's take a look at the Maverick now, where I got to go. Well, there it is. You can see that it hit like right up that way on the back bumper of a Yukon XL, and it kind of caved it in here and pushed it away from the bumper on the bottom. You can see that it's rubbed into the tailgate here, and this part here is not bad. Now that I've pulled that out and done a bunch of body work on it and straightened it out, maybe, I don't know, rather than do that and hope that it comes out okay, I just bought a whole new quarter panel, because for all intents and purposes this really does kind of bolt on. There are some welds that we're going to have to take out. However, a lot of it is bolted in, which makes it pretty nice to remove. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take off the rails for the bed cover, because those are in the way now, and the rear tail light. Take that out. Those will be really the easiest things to deal with. Alright, so the next thing that I'm working on is take off this front plastic trim, the front trim. Then I'll start working on the bumper cover. All that crap's got to come off, and then work forward to up this point. It's going to be so much fun. Just kind of working it back and forth a little bit. There we go. And yeah, it's in good shape. No problem. And then this one should just pull forward. Work this one off. Awesome. Lost one clip. Found it. Here it is. Awesome. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts on the top. Nice. Then you got this bolt here. You got some spot welds. I'm going to start working on the bottom. Excellent. Truthfully, where you start and stop doesn't make too much difference. I'm going to go ahead and I took off the rear wheel. And nice disc calipers. I took off the rear wheel, and I'm going to take off all these fasteners that go around the inner fender well. Alright, those are all the fasteners for the inner fender well right there. I'm going to put them in a bag so they stay together. This green thing, if you look, you wonder what that is? That is your gas door emergency release. And it comes out right at the edge of the fender well. But so far so good. Just keep working around. I've got to remove this piece. And the rear bumper is going to be the biggest thing, and probably the tailgate. I think I've got to take the tailgate off to get to it, but so far so good, right? Alright, I was able to get this piece off. That was no fun. There's the piece there. Once you get the two bottom pieces pulled down, they're pretty thick. Basically, you got another clip here, and I think one on the side, yeah. But just gently pulling on it didn't work. Yanking on it, pulled it out. So there you go. A little bit of force on it, and then this piece is off. Now, looking at the factory service manual, it's saying that there's spot welds you have to drill out here, up and down here, but I don't think that's the case. I'm going to go ahead and take off the bolt here and the bolts on the bottom, one up here, and I'm going to see if that thing wiggles, because I don't think this part, I think it actually bolts on the back here, which would be really cool. That's an 8mm. And that would be correct. You're not going to have to drill out any spot welds here, because on the new piece that's already spot welded in. So I don't know what the factory manual was saying about that. Awesome. Now I just have to work around the back and that bumper cover, taking it off, and then this should be ready to come off. I know there's a couple spot welds in it though. Maybe. Possibly. Who knows? Okay, so at this point, it's pretty floppy. I do want to go back and read the factory manual on removing the gas cap door, the gas door, and the tailgate. I know that there's a trick to it, and there might not be a trick to it, but I don't want to just start taking out bolts if I don't have to. So I'm going to go back home and I'm going to read about how to remove the tailgate and the gas cap door, and then basically all I've got left is the bumper cover, which I already know how to take it off. So I'm done until I can read up on that, and motivation is at an all-time low at this point. Got a lot done tonight though. Awesome. Here's the clip that keeps the tailgate from coming off. So what I need to do is take that off, then remove this, and when you come up on the tailgate, it'll actually remove. So I figured that out. If you have an XLT or a Lariat, you will have electric wires going into the tailgate for the electric latch up there, and maybe the alarm, I don't know, but you have to unhook that from underneath. This is an XL model, so it doesn't have any wiring at all. It's just a manual lock, so you should be able to just take the tailgate straight on off. And there it is. That keeps the tailgate from coming off. So let's undo this. Oh, it does have a wire. Okay, great. Gotta crawl underneath there and unhook this stupid wire. Okay, I got the tailgate off. I did not think there would be any wiring, but then I forgot about the backup camera, which obviously didn't work because he backed into something. But I took the wiring from the camera off from inside the tailgate rather than lowering the spare tire and unhooking it there. Once I started taking the tailgate off, it was kind of impossible to get the spare tire down. So that's where we're at. Now I get to take the bumper cover off. Got some bolts on the top here, a couple. I'll just work my way around underneath and on the outside to get this bumper cover slid out. And I'm going to have to take this tail light out because there's a screw that goes down into the bumper cover. Now that I think about it. here. Once you get all your bolts out, you're just going to kind of work it off of this top clip here. Everything just kind of clips in. And I've about got it. Maybe have another bolt or something in there. And there's two right there. Okay. All right. There's one wiring connector right here that you gotta undo. This thing's kind of a pain in the butt, but it's off. Mainly it just clips in. That's crazy. Make sure you don't miss any of the little bolts that go up in there. I got to take off the bolt bracket. There's some bolts over here. Let me get that off. Should be 10 millimeters. If you look on this edge, there's seam sealer that goes up and down right here, and that's seam sealer. And I basically just took a sanding disc and sanded right in that edge, and it just basically fell off of it. So I don't know if there's any spot welds in here. No, there's not. There is no spot welds in there. So it should just lift off. Gas tank. Got to take the gas tank off. Whoops. Let's see where we're at on that. One more thing. To get the gas door off, you're going to remove the sticker, and behind that, if you're careful, you can reuse it. There's a little clip. Pull back on it, and the door will pop off. So the plastic door is off. Awesome. And there's 4 little indentations here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it says if you cut a slot in there, this portion should come out. Now, I don't know. I might be able to reach it from the back side, but I'll let you know here in a minute. Okay, as far as removing this, the factory manual says you got to cut slots and try to push down on it. I found it easier just to push up on the bottom. Once this was loose, just reach up in there in the fender well, push up on these 2 bottom ones, and it'll pop out. You've got 1 vent tube and 1 electrical connector, and you can just pull your emergency release out. And then you just kind of wiggle it around and get it out of there. But that's out. Awesome. So now there's nothing really holding this quarter panel on, I don't think. Nope, that's it. So that pretty much answers that. There's no spot welds anywhere at all that you have to take out. This basically bolts up, which is crazy and good in a way as far as being able to replace it. The biggest problem I had was the rear bumper cover. It was no fun. Tailgate wasn't that bad, so I'm halfway there. I don't know if I'm halfway there, but I'm a long way away. I'm further along than I was before. Tonight I had to come back just to get this thing taken off and apart because it was bugging me. And tomorrow, basically we'll be fitting the new quarter panel on, bolting it up, and getting it prepped for paint. Put a sealer on it and then paint this dang thing. I will say this, is pretty nice to be able to unbolt it. Let me show you the inner structure. Now these Mavericks are getting totaled like waffles from the Waffle House coming off the waffle maker. One after the other, and there's not a lot back here. You can see that it wouldn't be too difficult to fix some of the ones I've seen that were wrecked. So if I ever ran across one at a good price, I sure as heck would buy it. It's got to get smashed pretty good to not be able to pull some of this out and repair it. But who am I? Just some shade tree guy. But that's it right there. Unbolted, no spot welds. Cool. You might ask yourself, could I fix this? It's got some little rubber things here. Interesting. Yeah, those will have to go on the new one. You might say, can I fix this? Well, let me tell you something. This metal is really, really thin. So maybe you could put some filler in it, but for the price of just being able to unbolt it and put a new one on, I don't know. Depends on the amount of damage. This got crunched up pretty good up here, which would make it pretty difficult to hammer out and get it straight. So I don't think so. Alright, I'm back up at the shop. It's the next day. I'm going to try to split this video into two videos. One would be the mechanical portion of getting everything on, and then the other portion is painting it. So that's kind of the game plan. I don't have a million videos on doing this. I want you to be able to follow it and do it yourself if you want to. However, I got to do a little bit of housekeeping because last night at 3 in the morning when I was taking all this stuff apart, I just was taking bolts off and laying them down. And so I'm going to bag everything, mark it, so I can put it back together when we're done with it. That will be a relief to be able to find the parts. So let me get that done, and then we'll clean off the bumper, maybe do a little repair to it, and then put the quarter panel on. Awesome. Alright, I got everything labeled, bagged, boxed, ready to go back on, and now I got to wash it off with a pressure washer, get everything cleaned up. Bumper cover, I might as well clean the back of it. No reason to get all dirty trying to put this stuff back in, and if air hits something, I really don't want that dirt to get into the paint. So I'm just going to wash it real quick with a pressure washer. Should be all we need on the inner structure here. Let's go half glass full rather than half glass empty today. It could have been a lot worse. The bumper cover is salvageable. It's got one little spot in it that I think I can fix. Tail lights are both good. Tail lights didn't get destroyed. The one on this side didn't get scratched at all. Tailgate didn't get hit. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that could have happened that would have been a lot more costly than just the quarter panel. So I'm happy about that. It came apart easier than I thought. No spot welds, basically unbolt the whole thing. The only thing that it required a little bit of body work was getting the seam sealer here on this seam. Basically just sanded that off with a sanding disc. You can take a wire wheel, it'll all get it off, and then it just pulls right off. So that's cool. I'm gonna get this sprayed off, cleaned off, and then get ready to put the new quarter panel on. Awesome. All right, she's all washed up. Just letting it dry. Put a clamp on that little piece that's ripped on the back of the bumper cover. You can see it's got a couple little Mars on it, which I don't really care about because I'm not spending another $800 for a bumper cover on a work truck that's got a couple little scratches. So that'll be fine. I'm going to glue this with some epoxy on the back side, and I think that's going to keep that in. Even if this got knocked all the way off, it would still be okay because you got the fender that comes down to about here. So whatever, I'm good with that. She's about ready to get the quarter panel put over. Now my mind is a little bit off, I know that, but I thought, you know, this rear quarter panel unbolts, and if you were somebody that was really good with metal, you could make some step sides for this truck and make it into a step side with a little bit of modifications. How cool would that be, rather than a fleet side? But on this project, that's for another project. On this project, we're going to get this one fixed like it's supposed to be. I'm ready to throw on the rear quarter panel. Let's get her done. Alright, get over. You fool. Yeah, that's my fault. Okay. Alright. Alright, I got it. Beautiful. Oh, there it is, set on it. It's on. I'll put the bolts in, and then we can I'll get the bolts put in it, and then after that I can put the sealer on it, and then she'll be ready to paint. All right, I got the bolts in. She's on there. You want to line it up with this back door. That's going to be your lineup point here, and that looks good, and the gap looks good, but you can see that right here is in just a little bit. I don't know if you can see that or not, so I may have to put a couple washers underneath this bottom part to raise it out. I mean, this metal is really pretty flimsy, and rather than bending the metal, I can put just a couple washers underneath that bottom portion that's covered and bring that out where it's even with the door. Other than that, this thing looks beautiful. I think it looks great, and I got to use a seam sealer right here along this edge. But other than that, holy moly, looks great. I will have to transfer some of the fasteners and stuff from the bent one over to this one. So, but other than that, man, I think it looks great. It's looking awesome. Taillight looks just fine. I shouldn't have to do anything else with that. So basically the rear quarter should be good. I'll have to move over the little rubber pieces and all the little fasteners once it's painted, but once I scuff it up, it'll be ready to put some sealer on it and then paint it. So it's looking really good. The only other thing I want to do before getting it prepped for paint is go ahead and take the tailgate and hold it up here, which I really didn't want to have to do, but you can see where the bolts are, that it's in probably, I don't know, 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more on those two spots, not at the bottom. But get that tailgate on there and make sure that this corner, everything lines up, because you don't want to take these bolts out, especially on this one, after you paint, because it'll knock the paint off. You can see where all the paint's missing there. So I'm going to do that real quick. So I thought I would look at Mavi number 1. Here's the gap on this side, and it's pretty large. And here's the gap on this side, and it's a lot less. So even from the factory, there's a discrepancy between the two. And it doesn't line up exactly right. That's pretty close on that one, on the top and the bottom. So, you know, it's not perfect, even from the factory. Mavi number 2, you can see the gap is wider on this side than it is on this side. It's not rubbing. That's okay. But if I can pull this out just a hair before I paint it, then that would be closer on the top. The bottom is not that bad. All of this you could live with. Once it's painted, I don't think you'll notice any of it. Alright, I was able to pull it out probably within, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch where it was before, so that's close enough for government work. You won't ever notice it. It looks good. No issues with that. Okay, so that's going to be it. I've got the quarter panel on. It was not as difficult as you would think as far as like the panel itself. The pain in the butt was like the bumper cover with all the little bolts and all the other little plastic pieces, the fender well, all that garbage. It's just time consuming to get all the little pieces out of it. So, but it's going to look great when I'm done with it. Mechanical portion is done. Don't be afraid to loosen up your 10mm bolts and pull up on it, move it around to get that gap where you want it to be, because it does move around quite a bit. This is not the thickest metal in the world, so it flexes quite a bit. Especially like on this front bottom, you pick up on it, it'll go further out than the door. So that's kind of what I would say about that. But I'm super happy with the way it looks right now. The next video will be about the painting and the putting everything back together. So 2 videos. This is the first one. We got the bent pieces back on. Now, if your truck was wrecked a little bit worse than this one, where some of the support pieces needed to be pulled out or something like that, don't be afraid to use some shims in it, washers, whatever you need to do to get everything to line up. This metal is very thin and it bends pretty easily, but if you were to give me a wrecked Maverick in the back, I'm fairly confident I could do what I needed to do to get it straightened out enough to make it look like something. So anyway, they're totaling out a bunch of these that could be fixed at a body shop if so they wanted to, and evidently they don't want to. Any questions or comments, post them below. Next video, we're going to get some paint on this pig and get Mavy number 2 back on the road. I'm David from the Redneck Garage. I appreciate you watching. Keep turning wrenches.